Hi, my name is Kyle Porter and I'm a sales engineer here at Simba Technologies. What I'm going to show you is SAP Lumira connecting to Cloudera Impala using the Simba JDBC drivers for Impala. The scenario we're going to look at is Envoy Airlines has approached us as a consultant to figure out where they're having problems with their arrival and departure delays and give them some actionable insight. So one of the first things you might want to do as a consultant is find some third-party data to verify the claim that they're having some problems. Luckily for us, the FAA publishes statistics about all of the flights within the US and publishes them online. I've already gone and downloaded and loaded into Impala some of that data. And we can look at that in our airline delays table. In here, we can see there's one entry which contains the flight date, the carrier, the origin, the destination, as well as the departure and arrival delays, and if the flight was canceled. In addition, I've also loaded two lookup tables, one for the airports, which maps from the airport code to the nice English name, and then the same for the unique carrier, so it'll map from AA to American Airlines. So that's the data set that we're going to analyze. To analyze it, we're going to use Lumira, and to do so, just go query with SQL, select the Cloudera Impala Simba JDBC drivers, which are bundled for free with SAP Lumira. Type in your server. If you had authentication enabled, put your username and password in. I don't, so we'll just hit connect. And here we can see the data within Impala. If we just select airline delays, we can hit preview, and we'll see the data. I want to do a little bit more of a complex analysis, so I've already written this query here, which is a four-way join between our airline delays table as well as our lookup tables, so that we can get the nice name for the unique carriers as well as the airports. So we'll do a preview on that. And you can see indeed that we get our nice names back. So we'll create the data set. And what's going on right here is that SAP Lumira has submitted the standard SQL query to the Simba JDBC drivers. The JDBC driver has translated that to Impala SQL, sent that to Impala, then Impala has processed the four-way join within Hadoop and returned the result. This is your first time seeing SAP Lumira. This is our report area. This is our storyboard for our reports. These are the attributes for our current report or diagram. These are the different types of visualizations we can do. And here are our measures and dimensions. Measures for numeric data, dimensions for non-numeric data. Now that we have the ability to do some sort of visualization and analysis, first thing we want to do is verify that there's actually some sort of problem with arrival and departure delays. To do that, we're going to use a pie chart. I know a lot of you hate pie charts, so we'll do that with a little bit of a twist. So we'll do pie chart with depth. We'll throw arrival delay on here, throw departure delay, and unique carrier. This gives us a nifty little visualization that we can spin around to look at. So we'll pick out Envoy Air, and we can see from this looks like it's not actually doing that bad. But if you look at the numbers look a little bit off. And this is because we're using a sum. So the more flights that you fly, the worse your arrival and departure delay are generally going to be. So we'll change this instead to be the average. This changes it a little bit. So if you look at Envoy Air, you can see that it looks like we're about the second worst in terms of arrival and departure delay now across all of the carriers that we're looking at. So there indeed does seem to be some sort of problem. Another thing we might want to check is cancellations. So we'll just sort this. So the worst is at the top. Select Envoy Air, and we can see that it's second in terms of cancellations. But again, this is the sum of cancellations, so we want the average. And now we can see that Envoy Air is canceling roughly 4% of its flights, where our next carrier is actually canceling only about 2%. One other thing we might want to look at is if there's any skews in our data for this month. some sort of problem with any of the airports that uniquely affected Envoy Air. So to do that, we can use an area chart. We'll go across the flight date for arrival delay, and then we'll pick out the unique carriers, and then highlight Envoy Air. So across all the days for Envoy Air, it doesn't look like there's anything out of the ordinary. So there's no massive skew in any of the days or set of days. So the data looks good here. One other cool thing that you can pick out from this chart is that when one airline seems to do badly in terms of arrival delays, all the other airlines also seem to do badly. And when they do well, all the other airlines generally seem to do well as well. This could be because there are weather patterns which affect all of the flight delays, or perhaps a closure at one of the airports, which has knock-on effects for all the other airports. So now that we know that there is a problem and there doesn't seem to be any skew in our data, the next thing we want to do is actually find out where there are problems. To do that, we're going to use a tree map. And we only want to look at Envoy Air, so we'll put a filter in for Envoy Air. Then we'll look at our arrival delay and our departure delay. And I want to look at airports across the US, as well as at the state level. To do that, I'm going to create a custom hierarchy. I could create a geographic hierarchy, but because I want to include airport, I need to use a custom one. So I'll throw our city over and our airport and create. And then we'll throw our hierarchy here. So this gives us a nice visualization of all the states, where the size of each element in our true map is the arrival delay, and the darker the color, the worse the the departure delay. So we can see something like Florida is doing pretty well, and something like Pennsylvania is having a little bit of a problem. Now, there's a little bit too much data here to really pick out the top problems. So what we'll do is we'll just pick out the top 5 by arrival delay. So we have Pennsylvania, Mississippi, Iowa, Kansas, and Arizona. So we can drill down into the city level and see how this changes things. And we can see we now have something from Texas for Midland, Odessa, as well as Amarillo from Texas. And the reason that these cities show up, but Texas didn't show up at the state level, is likely because there were multiple airports or cities in Texas with low delays, which pulled down the average for Texas. We can also see that Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Little Rock, and Waterloo are all here. So now we can actually drill down into the airport level to see the individual airports that are having problems. And from this, we can see that Harrisburg, Pennsylvania generally looks like it's having the worst arrival delays. So that's a good one to look at for where we're having problems. So we can actually easily do that by duplicating our report. We'll create a filter just so we're looking at Harrisburg. We'll take out our top 5 since we only have 1 now. I'm going to change this to be a bar chart just to be a little bit easier to visualize. And then we'll pull out our origin airport and get rid of our destination. So here we see there's only one airport flying into Harrisburg, and that's Chicago O'Hare. So Chicago O'Hare to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, there's definitely a problem. There's on average a 35-minute arrival delay and a 17.74 minute departure delay. So with this information, we can now go back to Envoy Airlines and say, you really need to look at your Chicago O'Hare to Harrisburg International flight. That's the worst of your problems, and we can go from there from our data. And that wraps up the demo. So what we've done is we loaded data into Impala. Then we created a query using standard SQL to pull that data back into Lumira from Impala using the Simba JDBC drivers. We verified that there was a problem. And then we drilled down into a specific problem area so that we can give actionable insight into our client.